welcome back to an all-new episode of the One Tree Hill Rewatch here on the Filmaholic channel. Today I'm talking about 2 episodes in Season 7, and that is 7:15 and 7:16, so let's jump right into it. So 7:15 is called Don't You Forget About Me, and this episode is dedicated to John Hughes. It's all inspired by everything the characters go through is supposed to be like a different John Hughes film. I thought this was a very cool tribute to that iconic director, and it worked really well for me. It came out February 1st, 2010. Was directed by Les Butler and written by Terrence Colley. Both of these guys, they've done episodes before. No stranger to the show. So yeah, it's also, you know, like I said, it's dedicated to John Hughes. It's all inspired by him, all this different stuff, but it's also 80s inspired in general, given that they have a fundraiser at Trick, or like a concert. I'm trying to think, because it's been a little bit since I actually watched this episode, like a couple of weeks. I think they just say it's a fundraiser. I mean, it's obviously it's a concert, but when I was looking on IMDb to get my notes here, it said that it was a high school reunion, which is absolutely not a high school reunion. I don't know who wrote that on there. Because if it was a high school reunion, why would you have an 80s theme? And also, why would Quinn be there at Haley's high school reunion? Like, that's just, it makes no sense. You don't have any of these characters coming back. It's a fundraiser. It's cool. It worked. So you have the Nathan and Clay stuff, which is probably my favorite part of the episode, is the Nathan and Clay stuff, which is planes, trains, and automobiles. So they have went on this place. Nathan's also trying to get back for Haley's birthday, because that's the whole 16 candles aspect, and he's planned all this different stuff, but they end up, you know, the car breaks down and everything, and what happens is Clay drives over the spikes the wrong way, and they have a flat tire, and they can't fix the car until like a day later, so they end up trying to hitchhike to Tree Hill, which is ridiculous given that they're in like Mount Airy, which is very far from Wilmington, which, you know, is where Tree Hill is supposed to be. So they're working their way. They work their way through the woods to the highway. It's all kind of. They shouldn't have had them be so far away. Really, they should have had them in like at least Raleigh. That's what I would have said. Some small town outside of Raleigh that they were, and maybe. That's what the original idea in the episode could have been, was to get to Raleigh, and that way they could get to Tree Hill. But anyways, they have this. We gotta live with it. And they drove out of the way. What happened, they drove out of the way because Nathan went to sleep and Clay was driving, and he went in the wrong, a couple hours in the wrong direction, I think he said. So yeah, they do that, and then they're hitchhiking. They go through all these different things, but what I love most about this is that it touches on Clay and Sarah, and the fact that Nathan doesn't know about that. He makes a joke about, you know, you would know this if you had a wife, and he said, you know, I did have a wife, and then Nathan makes a joke then, and then he said, no, she died, and it takes what that little comical moment in this bit in the show, and then brings it really heavy, and it's great, and then they touch upon it again later. And I just really think that was a good part of the episode. I like it. It was emotional. And then by the end of the episode, they end up buying this random woman's Porsche, and drive it back to Tree Hill, which then Nathan gives to Haley for a birthday present, which brings me to the next thing. So the other part is 16 candles. Everyone forgets Haley's birthday. You know, Nathan doesn't forget it, but his phone's dead. He can't get there. Jamie forgot until the end with his part, and then he remembers and starts setting up the house for her birthday. Brooke doesn't know. Grubbs, you know, looks at her ID and still doesn't even wish her a happy birthday. So she's going through all that in the episode. Quinn, I don't really think that Quinn is necessarily going through anything John Hughes inspired. She's just kind of like attached to other. And I might be wrong. There might be a thing that's supposed to be. I don't know what you would, unless it was some kind of wonderful or something. I don't think that's connected to anything. But Quinn is dealing with Kylie, and Kylie still, for some reason, it has a key I'm assuming she just took that key, and Clay never gave her a key, because we never got the sense that they had that sort of relationship that he would give her a key. But he did leave the house and told her she could sleep there if she wants. So I'm assuming that she took a key then, and then she keeps coming over there to get in the pool, and then Quinn ends up throwing a slushie on her in the episode, and then we have a lot of stuff with her and Kylie throughout this episode, which leads to an actual pretty good scene where Kylie, or Brooke and Haley are in the school hallway by their locker, by Brooke's old locker, and they're talking. They have a good scene, and I really like that, and this is also the last episode that we film at the high school hallway. We do get the high school hallway again in season 9, which is where I filmed as an extra, but that's not the school. That's not the actual, technically supposed to be the school hallway, because that's in Julian's show, so that's actually supposed to be a set. But so, as far as like the last time that these characters are actually in Tree Hill High School, this is it. And Brooke, talks to Haley at the, and they bring up Lucas about him pimping out her locker and everything. And then Kylie walks over drunk and falls down, and they shut the locker, and it gets Kylie's hair stuck in the locker. So then Quinn comes over and ends up having to actually cut Kylie's hair, and they end up kind of not making up like they're gonna be friends, but pretty much calling it even a truce on the situation, which then leads to the other thing with Kylie of the weird science thing. So the Mouth and Junk and Fergie have that going on, where they've pimped out his like dating profile and everything, and chosen this girl, and she comes over and is Kylie. So then that's the weird science angle. I actually kind of wished that they had did a Kylie Mouth relationship, because I found her to be far more interesting, and they could have been more interesting as a couple than him and Lauren, which I think is really boring and didn't add anything to the show, because the only thing really that you could get from that relationship would be to build on him and Skills' friendship afterwards. But like I said, that doesn't end up happening because Skills isn't in much of season 8. Then we have the Brooke and Julian stuff as well. That's pretty in pink. Julian also talks to Alex in the episode of Alex saying her favorite actress is Julia Roberts, and Julian said his favorite director is John Hughes, which adds to the episode. But then they go to this, she convinces him, because Brooke's already kind of mentioned the 80s, this fundraiser to Julian. Alex convinces him to go. They go, and Julian is very Ducky inspired from Pretty in Pink. And then there's a couple scenes I like. I'm not big on that whole Alexander thing, and I never really thought that him and Brooke were going to be anything. But when he picks her up outside Clothes of Bros, I like that shot a lot. The way the music's playing, the way the camera just has her coming out and him sitting on the car. I thought that was done really well. I like that a lot. And then I love the scene with Brooke and Julian in the automotive class and sitting in the torn apart car and talking. I thought that was beautiful. And then we have the scene too with Julian and Alexander where he's like, I'll chase you through the Outback. Not the restaurant, but I'll chase you through there either. I thought that was hilarious and worked. And then Alex and Alexander have a scene together too in this episode, kind of like foreshadows their relationship, what that's going to be. Not that they really had a relationship, but they sleep together a few times in the upcoming episodes, so it kind of sets it up. But she pretty much tells him, like, don't go after Brooke because I've been there. It's not going to work out how he wants. Julian's still alone with her, and she loves him because she loves him too. That's what she says. But yeah, and then we have the Jamie stuff, which is the last bit of the episode, and that's supposed to be Home Alone. So he convinces Junk and Fergie supposed to watch him. He lies to Junk and Fergie until they find out later, and then they try to break into the house, which ends up helping him out because then they help him decorate the house for Haley's birthday. But yeah, really fun episode. I think it was a smart decision to do this John Hughes thing. It worked for me. And it also continued. It wasn't one of those episodes too that just did this fun stuff but didn't add to the story, because it did both at the same time, which I thought was good. I mean, like the Nathan and Clay stuff, like that stuff was funny, but you also pushed the story forward because that conversation about Sarah needed to happen, and it happened here. Same thing with the Julian and Brooke stuff and the Alexander stuff, like all of that little stuff in the episode, continuous to the next one. And then we go to 7/16, which is the other episode I'm going to be talking about here today, and that's My Attendance is Bad, but My Intentions Are Good, which came out February 8th, 2010, was directed by Jessica Landau and written by Nikki Schiffelbein. I'm terrible pronouncing things. Which is really good because there's not a lot of episodes, honestly, that I've came across that have been written and directed by a woman in One Tree Hill, which, that's a disappointing thing about the show. There's been several episodes, and not enough, I think, written by women, directed to, but not usually by the same time, I've noticed. But this, it does. I think that's great. I like it. But as far as the actual episode itself, there's not a whole lot about this one that I want to talk about. The main thing about this episode is that Lydia returns in this episode, and we just get her with the daughters first, a little bit of them hanging out. Nice, because we haven't seen Lydia since season 2, so it was nice. It catches up on stuff too, and fills us in that obviously her father, Haley's father, Jimmy James, is dead. He was played by Huey Lewis in One Tree Hill, which is really cool. But his character is no longer with us. I don't think they mention how he dies, but you have to assume, because they do mention it too with Jamie, that he was too young to really remember him, that he would have passed away in between season 4 and 5, so somewhere during that point. But she returns, and not only is the episode about her return, but it's also about her revealing to them that she has pancreatic cancer and that she's going to die, because you're not really able to beat that. My grandfather had that as well. It's tough. And she decides not to do the treatments, because the treatment is just it's essentially just trying to make you last longer, but it ends up, from my experience, just the chemo stuff making it worse. So that's her decision, and they're not very happy with the decision. Haley's not happy. Taylor's definitely not happy. Taylor ends up storming out and crying. And I think that she does some really terrific acting in this season, the actress that plays Taylor. I'm glad they brought her back to this. But she's saying you're giving up. Quinn's really the most acceptive of it, of that, she understands why her mom is doing this. And I think she handles the situation the best. Haley's trying to, but Haley is wanting, once again, and we kind of show this in 7/14 with the situation with Taylor and David. Haley's still trying to she wants to try to fix everything. She wants to try to, be that person, and she can't do that here. But yeah, it's a heavy episode. It takes us into a very heavy part of the season. This episode and the next two, especially, dealing with Lydia and her death. Because we know it's coming, and it's still there's this gloom especially in the next one, there's a whole gloom over the episode no matter what happens in it, because the character is going to die, and then 18 especially is very heavy. So we have that. Millicent, she's supposed to be going to therapy, and she's not really going. She's just, goes in and gets the guy to sign the paper and then leaves. And then Miranda and Grubbs, that whole relationship storyline kind of gets set up here, which I like for the most part. I think some of the scenes are kind of not the best, but I still like them enough to appreciate the storyline. I love Wakey Wakey, and I liked Grubbs, the character in the show as well, and I liked Miranda. I thought she was interesting. Once again, another relationship and characters that I wish we could have followed more, because I like what they set up here, and obviously at the end of the show, this season they leave, and that makes sense for them to probably not even be in the first half of season 8. But by the second half of season 8, I would have loved it if you had brought them back. But especially in season 9, I think that you should have definitely brought them back, at least for the series finale, bring them back and have Grubbs, Wakey Wakey perform at Trick for the concert that was going on in the series finale. I think he should have been there, and I think Miranda should have came with him and showed that they ended up together. But that starts in this episode, and not only just their relationship, but the fact that she has heard him play and she wants to sign him to the record label and put in an album. And he's very resistant on it at first, because the last time that he did music, put out, did something, he became this awful guy. And it wasn't just the music, but it was the relationship that he was in. And it was all kind of interesting there. But that's the 2 episodes that I'm talking about today, 715, 716. Next video I'll be doing will be 717 and 718. So this is going to be very heavy emotionally, talking about those 2 episodes. But don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.